Hey guys, it's Rima. I hope you're doing well today. So, if you're seeing this presentation, that means that you've already seen Managing Expectations Part 1, and I hope that you really enjoyed it. And now there's a Part 2 that I've put together for you guys because, like I said, this concept is so important, especially for youth. Okay, so let's get into the agenda as always. So let's talk about it. So we're going to talk about the expectation management of careers. That's the main focus for today. We're going to talk about what it means, why it's important. We're going to discuss a lesson that kind of correlates with these 2 points. We're going to talk about strengths and abilities. So again, a really crucial concept. And a guide to managing career expectations, then a short conclusion and a fun assignment. And as usual, I promise it's fun. So there's a lot of content here today, so I don't want to waste any more time. Let's just get started. So let's define it. So what the heck is the expectation management of careers? What a long term, right? So it's essentially just your long-term expectations relative to your career choice. So maybe you're thinking about what kind of job you'd fulfill and what you anticipate for yourself in the future, right? That's normal. I think everybody does that. And being self-aware, this is so important, guys, and we're going to talk even more about this concept of being self-aware. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So it's essentially your long-term expectations, like I said, relative to a career choice. And you can imagine how self-awareness plays a role in that. And if you can't, I've provided a definition here. So let's define again. So self-awareness is the knowledge of one's own character, your feelings, your motives, and desires. This is so important. I cannot even stress how critical this term is, this concept. So it's knowing yourself, right? I mean, if we break down the word self, you, aware, right? You're aware of you, your character, your motives, your desires, maybe a career choice. And this all relates to what you see yourself doing in the future, right? Because if you don't understand yourself, how on earth can you understand what kind of career you'd fulfill? So that kind of ties into why it's important. So sometimes we as humans can get really ahead of ourselves and we tend to expect a lot, right? It's okay to have high standards, but that kind of goes with the whole idea of managing your expectations, controlling those high standards that can sometimes stress you out. So of course, the career we choose is a very important decision, probably one of the most important you'll make in your life. Managing your career expectations really helps you become more self-aware. It really helps, and we're going to talk more about that. We're going to dive into that in depth. You feel empowered. So when you're self-aware and when you kind of have a goal for yourself, but you have standards, but you also know how to manage your expectations, and it's just all so well-rounded, you feel empowered. And I mean, that's an incredible feeling. Let's keep going. So just a short example to kind of tell you or show you what I'm talking about. So we have Anisha here, and she sees herself being an incredible businesswoman one day. Just an amazing businesswoman who works at this wonderful firm, and she's just so happy in the future, and she has these big goals for herself, and it's all incredible, right? Let's talk about Anisha. Let's see what she's thinking. Okay, so Anisha understands, yeah, I'm still really young. She's so young, right? So you can have this idea of what you want to do in the future, but you have to remember that you're still so young and you're learning a lot about yourself, right? It's normal. She knows that her career plan could change. I mean, of course. At this age, you don't fully know yourself, and that's okay. It's okay to not fully know yourself, right? It's okay to not be completely self-aware. So she understands, like maybe in a year, in 5 years, who knows? Even longer than that, my career plan could change. And that's okay because I'm still learning about myself and my interests, my desires, what I'm good at, maybe what I'm not so good at, right? So she understands that she's still learning about herself, exactly what I just said. Okay, so she's here. You can see she's imagining all the different careers. So there's a lesson in this. So when you're managing these career expectations you have for yourself, it's really crucial to be self-aware. I think I've stressed that enough already. So understand your strengths and abilities and how they could possibly apply to a future career. Right? That's really important to do. And just having this understanding that plans can change and that's okay. So a little bit more about strengths and abilities. So I want you to think for a second. So I kind of have a short question here. When you think of self-improvement, what's the first thing that comes to mind? So do you assess your weak points, your strong points, or do you assess both? So I'm going to give you about maybe 20 seconds just to think about this. Maybe even write it down. What's your answer? Okay, so just think about this. So which one would you choose? Maybe write it down in your notes, whatever it is. Okay? Then I kind of have an answer here. So the answer is both. So when you're kind of doing some self-assessment, you want to focus on your strengths and your weak points. It's so easy to get caught up in only trying to improve our weak points that we forget that our strong points can always use improvement as well. So again, both. So we want to assess both of these kind of points to ourselves or to our strengths and abilities. Okay. So let's continue talking about this. So like I said, it's easy to get caught up in just only addressing the weaknesses or the weak points of who we are. It's very easy to do that. So we tend to forget that just because we're strong in something doesn't necessarily mean that we should stop improving that, right? So if I'm really great at math, I'm just so good at it, I've mastered it. I've mastered math. Okay. Does that mean that I should just never do math again? Or I should never try to improve? No, right? Of course not. But maybe if we kind of switch the roles a bit and I said, wow, I'm really not great in math. It's definitely a weak point for me. What would you suggest? You would suggest that I do a lot of practice to get better, right? So there's kind of that double standard or controversy between the two. So just because you're strong at something or you're good at something doesn't mean that you should stop working on it. There's always room for improvement. So yeah, strengths should improve just as much as our weaknesses do. So you should address your weaknesses, of course, but don't neglect or forget about your strengths. Okay, so give your brain a workout. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about a guide. So let's discuss how we can manage these career expectations. I mean, I told you all about what it means and how it's so amazing. Well, you're probably thinking, tell me how I can do this, right? So I've prepared this little guide for you that you can take notes on. I think it's great. It's a good thing to follow. Let's take a look. So the very first thing that I would suggest is to do your research. So when I was talking about self-awareness, right, again, we're always becoming more self-aware. We're always learning more about who we are, but that doesn't mean, you can't maybe see yourself doing a particular career one day. So let's say that is the case. You say, one day I want to be a teacher or a lawyer or a nurse or a doctor, whatever it is. Before you actually establish that expectation for yourself, make sure you have a decent understanding of what to expect on that journey. So just do some research, right? So you can't have a plan without knowing what you need to get there, right? So maybe make a list of possible career choices and do research on each of them and say, hey, maybe I don't fit so well in that one, or maybe I fit really well in that one, right? So research is really a critical part of this. So here's some ideas. So how much education does this career require, right? So law school, medical school, graduate degrees, you may not understand what those are right now, or if you do, great. But yeah, I mean, there's always additional school to careers like that. Like I said, am I fit for this career? Is it really my passion? So that definitely ties into being self-aware. And what to expect from this career choice. I mean, we're talking about school, maybe income, maybe, just certain assets that a career comes with that you might want to think about. Maybe not right now, but it's important to understand, again, what you're embarking on. So make a plan. So kind of think about what you'd like to achieve. So when we're talking about having expectations, I never want it to come off as a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. It's actually a really good thing. The issue is that when expectations aren't met and we're faced with reality, it's sometimes a burden, right? It takes a toll on us as humans, and that's normal. So, set expectations for yourself, but understand that things don't always work out the way you intend for them to, the way you intend. So, having expectations for yourself is a good thing. It pushes you, but just don't push yourself too much, right? There's always a limit. So, in addition to that, try to set small goals in order to reach the big one. It's important, right? Don't put too much pressure on yourself, just enough pressure. Be flexible. So it's important to have direction, but you never know what life could throw you. Life is so unpredictable that you can't really have a point A to point B plan, right? So welcome the idea of different careers. So don't just sit on one career and say, yes, this is it, never going to change my mind. Be open-minded. Keep an open mind and heart. That's my biggest piece of advice in this entire lesson is keep an open mind and heart. I cannot stress how important that is. Okay? Have a voice. This is also very important. I only include the most important points in my lesson, so don't worry. So don't be afraid to discuss careers, right? So maybe people might take it as bragging or, don't listen to those people. You should be able to discuss careers with your peers, your family, and they might be able to give you a different perspective, right? Discussion is everything. Yeah, it's great. And maybe you guys can establish a career plan with one another. So you can talk about the steps you're going to take to reach your career goal. So this is a great topic of discussion with your friends if you guys are kind of thinking about that. Like, what steps am I going to take to get here? And, why do I believe it's a great fit for me? That all really reflects self-awareness. So don't be afraid to talk about career choices. Okay. Take ownership. So nothing is just handed to you. You really have to work for it. So if you establish your career choice and you have a plan and whatever it is, you can have everything. But if you don't own it, then it won't come true. You really have to fulfill the career expectations you set for yourself. They'll never fulfill themselves, right? So all in all, you create your own destiny, right? I mean, you're responsible for your future. Every choice you make leading up to your future, career, whatever it is, every choice you make influences that. And that's a lot to take in, but you really do create your own destiny. You shape your future even when you don't realize it. And ensure the career you're set on really is the best fit for you. Again, that comes back to the whole keeping an open mind and heart and welcoming the idea of these different careers. So if you're really set on a career choice, then you've made a plan, whatever it is, you've even taken ownership. That's incredible. But don't be so closed-minded. I think that that's a problem. That can be a real problem when you're really closed-minded. Yeah, it's not the best thing. Okay, so I just kind of want to conclude everything. So let's take a look. So let's kind of go over what we've learned. So even though expectations may not always be fulfilled, it's really important to have some sort of direction. And as humans, being self-aware is very important, right? We talked about that. It's critical. We're always learning more about ourselves. That kind of ties into self-awareness. And because of this, we should be more forgiving when things may not go as planned. I find that people tend to be very hard on themselves when things don't kind of happen the way that they expect them to or fall into place. Okay? So I think that these are very important points. If I had to summarize this presentation to 4 points, these would definitely be it. Yeah, definitely. So I really want you to kind of take in everything we've learned, and especially these points here, and just think about it. No matter how old or young you are, if you've been thinking about a career choice, be open about it, own it, have a voice, be self-aware. I mean, these are all such important concepts that I feel like people don't talk to youth enough about. So I feel like these concepts need to be more projected towards the youth, and they're so critical. I can't stress how important these are. These notions of self-awareness and managing your expectations, they're so critical. Okay, with that being said, we can move into an assignment. So on a blank piece of paper, I want you to kind of answer the following. And by the way, I really love to read all the work that you guys send me in. It's probably the highlight of my day. I love it so much. Yeah, your guys' handwriting is incredible as well. I have to say that. So on a blank piece of paper, show me that incredible handwriting, these brilliant ideas, and tell me what it means to manage career expectations. So I give you these questions to make sure that you really understood the presentation, but pretend like you're teaching somebody else. So when you answer questions like this, just kind of conceptual questions, think about it like you're teaching me, right? That's the best way that you can develop an answer. In your own words, I want you to define self-awareness. So what on earth does it mean to be self-aware? Okay, so tell me about it like I've never heard this term before. Like you're teaching me. Do you know what career you'd like to have or fulfill? Tell me about it. Tell me why you'd want to be in that career, or why you think you're a great fit for it. Tell me all about it. Yeah, I really love to read your guys' responses. I think it's great. You guys are all very smart students, and this is actually my last lesson with you. So I really hope that I wrapped it up nicely. And if I can leave you with one piece of advice, it'd be to remember that you create your own destiny and to not ever let anybody tell you you can't do something. Okay, you can do anything you put your mind to. You guys are all so brilliant. You've been incredible, and I can't wait to read these responses. So that being said, I hope you have an amazing day, and thanks for listening. Okay, bye guys.